right, welcome back, Brew Crew, to another episode of Shedding Your Skin. I'm happy that I got the intro correct with the right logo. Sometimes I screw that up, but we are good. Let me shout out the chat before I bring on our guest. What's good, Tucker? Tucker's going to be on in April, so I'm really excited. So doing the Pacific Northwest tour. What's up, Justin? Thanks for tuning in. Ken, another Pennsylvanian. What's good? What's good? What's good? Another alumni from the show. We got Donovan, Burning Heart. What's good? What's good? We got John, No H. What is up? Stan from Sea of Serpents. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So I'm going to do my little thing before I bring out the guest. So we've had all this talk about, tubs, racking, whatever. But at the end of the day, who cares? As long as your husbandry is fine. What we really need to do is support US Arc. Boom. I am a bronze member, and I'm renewing this year. I may do silver, and my dog is barking at something. But anyway, so support US Arc. And without further ado, I will bring out my guest, Angel Carro Reptiles. Sorry, my dog is freaking out. All right, what's up, Angel?
What's up?
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. How's everybody
today? Give a brief introduction. Tell us where you're from, what you keep. I'm going to put you on the big while I try to figure out what the hell my dog's doing.
Good. Angel Carro Reptiles. Originally from Brooklyn, New York. That's kind of where I started out. Now we're in Washington, and primarily we work with ball pythons. I've worked with lots of other things too, but right now we're pretty much just doing ball pythons. A couple different morphs we can go through. But yeah, I've been in the business or the hobby. I've been in the hobby since I think '98.
Wow. Oh, it's roughly around the time I got my first my first snake. It was a albino corn snake, and back then that was like, holy crap. there's colors aside from your normal morphs. So I mean it's come a long way since then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I remember that like back in the late '90s, and there wasn't a bunch of stuff. I think albino balls were like $25,000, at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think we had a local pet store that had all sorts, pretty sure they had like an ocelot at some point. But he had an albino Burmese python at the time, and it was like, oh my God, like this thing was gorgeous. And I found out later, my mom told me that I was actually in the room for the enclosure that they had with this snake that probably could have wrapped me up and ate me. So I didn't remember that, but I remember the snake. I didn't remember being in the room with it, but it was cool. And I've always been this sort of reptile nerd.
But that's the thing. It starts with, especially when you're a kid, it starts with positive experiences. I do a lot of reptile shows, and you got to take time to talk with these kids. You don't want them to have a bad experience. You don't want them to be afraid. A lot of, because there's already so much negative,
definitely
thoughts about how snakes are portrayed and so on. Anyway, but that's a good thing about reptile shows is that if you're at a reptile show, especially you're there with kids, whether you're curious or not, I don't think that's a place where you're going to be negative anyway about a snake. You might be a little leery about touching or holding, but you made it through the door. You made it through the door at this reptile show. So something brought you there.
Or
now, whether it was
your kid, you're in for free.
Whether it was your significant other or your kids or your friend, they got you to go to this show, and now you're there, and you could not touch anything, and that's okay, but you can ask questions. So I'm always happy to answer questions, especially from kids.
And if I don't know the answer, I know somebody that does.
Right. Or we could try to find the answer together, because now if I don't know it, I'm kind of curious what it is.
Right, definitely. And I'm in my second year of breeding, so I lucked out the first year where I bought a female, but it was as a male, so the gender odds sort of helped me out a little bit when it's like this thing's looking like a female, bull wrapping, doing all that stuff. So I threw a male in and had my first clutch. So, now I'm in
And that's good because most of us are not having that. Like this year, that happened to me with a male that I raised up for like 3 years, and the female I raised up for 3 years turned out to be a male. Um, and that's something for another topic. And like, how do you resolve that? And so
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
But
it's definitely something.
it's a setback.
Like
It's
whenever I
definitely a
buy a
setback.
snake now, I pop the snake. I've had some breeders that will do it for me when I'm buying it in person at a show or whatever, or like
Mhm.
Kai from Lucas Landon. He sent me a YouTube video of the snake and he popped it, and that was cool. I
That's
mean,
great.
like I highly
That's great.
recommend Kai from Lucas Landon Royals. Just his customer
Absolutely.
service is just like above. I mean, yeah, we're local to each other. We're in the
Well,
same
that's
group
good.
chats, whatever. But I mean, like the packaging, the once we made the deal, he was, and for me, I was dumb. I didn't click on the actual picture in Morph Market. So if you click on the picture, it blows it up to like the whole
Mhm.
snake view. I didn't do that, and I thought I was getting like the lowest white pied possible. Just a little ringer looking thing. But the pattern would have said it was pied. And I'm like, hey Kai, what's going on with the snake? Is it the same one you sold me? That you're sending me? And he's like, click on the picture. And so it does have, it's still low white, but it's, you can tell it's a pied.
Mhm.
But yeah, just
Now he
having,
knows he knows his stuff, man. He's top notch. He's definitely top notch.
yeah. So, I mean, it was really nice. Like I watched the video where he was doing the egg cutting and, saw the snake, so there's that resource of like, yeah, this is what I hatched out, what I didn't hit
Yeah,
all
and
five.
that's the thing. If you can do all of that, it's tough sometimes. But if you can provide that, the more it sucks, but almost like the more proof of you producing this animal and genes and so on. It's really hard to take everybody at face value. The animal that I got was supposed to be a female. I bought two animals; they were both females, and I popped them when they came in. And I've been doing this for a long time. I guess he had small hemipedes. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. I
but
made that mistake too, but
it.
I corrected it. I thought I had a female when I hatched out this clutch. Turns out it's a male
Mhm.
replica of dad, possibly het for pied or het for lavender, but I don't see any of that. But
But it happens. It happens. Not everything is going to be perfect, and you
yeah,
can't think that everything in this hobby is going to be perfect, and that's how you either learn from it or you get upset and then you sell all your shit.
right,
There's
right.
there's 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 you got to move through this stuff, and I understand some people can't. You have two bad seasons, whatever the situation is. You have two bad seasons. It can really sour it, and you might think like, I'm not going to bother with that third season, but you push through, and that third season is incredible.
Yeah, I
it
feel like
it
to that
happens.
point, I feel like there's a like we like I just happened to get in at the same time as like the pandemic breeders. That's when I moved. I got my own place. I was able to go crazy and collect all the Pokemon. Uh,
Hmm.
but it just happened at the same time. This is something. It's my hobby. I've always kept reptiles, and I got into breeding right around the time where everybody was getting the stimulus money and buying other people's collections and expanding. So this has always been my thing. I just sort of ramped up at that same time, but now I'm seeing we're 2-3 years into people breeding and they're getting out.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, but I'm also seeing people that have been in it for a while too. I don't know, but I am seeing a lot of new people, a lot of new people. So it's definitely not dying, the way
Oh,
everyone
no,
thinks.
no, I
I
think
think a lot of the people that are getting out are just, either they were, pandemic breeders and they got in really quick because they didn't know there was an uncertainty. There was uncertainty, and now maybe they went back to work or they started their own business doing something else. Whatever it is, something else is pulling them away from that. It's not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily a bad or a negative thing. I think sometimes you get into it. It's a business. This is a business. You have to remember it's a business. If you're trying to make money, you got to run it as a business. And
definitely, definitely.
if your other job is making you more money, and you're going back to that job now, and that job is making more money and taking more time and so on, and this isn't 100% what you really, really wanted to do, but you thought it was a good fallback or a good hobby, I can see that being the reason people got out. I don't blame them for it. We all gotta take care of We got to take
Right.
care of our
You know,
stuff.
your family,
But I
your
bet
normal 9 to
once
5
shit levels
operation.
out for them, they'll be right back into it again because this shit is hard to stay away from.
Yeah, like I see people. I'm like, you're really gonna sell off everything? Nah, you're gonna keep like one 6 stack of your cream of the crop, right? For me, if I had to get out, I wouldn't actually get out. I'd sell like the lizards, and I keep my heavy hitters. I keep all the ultramel stuff, all the stuff that's I'm focused in that project. Just in the event that I get back in. I breed my own rodents, so it's really I'm spending more
And
money on
that's
snakes
and
and a
that's a
less resin.
problem. And that's a problem too. Rodents can be really difficult for certain people, especially certain parts of the country. Whether it's access to rodents or access to feed for rodents, things are difficult.
Yeah, so
Um,
I ran into that here. So there's I have Tractor Supply. That's great, but there's no like the closest ag way is down by Chris at B&S Reptilia. Like it's a drive to go get if I have to physically go there to buy rodent food. And a lot of places don't stock it, or at least in the quantity that you would need to breed rodents. So luckily, I have Chewy, and I can order Kalmbach, which my rodents seem to prefer. And you get 2 bags, it's free shipping. The price is
yeah, and then it's even cheaper when you
good.
get the recurring order, monthly
Yeah,
order, and I think Chewy, Kalmbach, they have a really good thing right now because almost every rodent breeder I know out here does that. They all go with Chewy and Kalmbach, and I don't know, hopefully that'll change with some of the other companies too, because I know some people don't want to use that brand, but um, they want to use
Missouri or
Missouri, or they want to stick with their Missouri for whatever the reason, and they're feeling this pinch of like, well, I can't get Missouri at Tractor Supply, or I can only get a 25-pound bag. I don't know why I can't get a 50-pound bag, or
right.
I have to order a pallet, or whatever the situation is. Some of the worst problems in the rodent industry is the food. It's the food, you know. The other issue would be whether or not you can do it where you are.
Right.
You know,
Either like for me, I'm keeping them in a closet, and I cannot wait till my buddy gets his rodent shed, and I can move my operation. Not in my where I
it's
live.
hard. Like you wanna have these snakes, and you wanna do this thing, and there's all these tiers and levels, and certain expenditure amounts that you're going to be doing. Again, we start out in a hobby. It's a pet. It's this. We get a couple more. We're like, oh, we could breed and make a couple more. And then it grows, and it turns into a business that, and without looking at it as this is, I'm just going to make money on this, which people don't want to talk about, which I'm glad more people are talking about the business side of this. But you can do this as a business, make money, and love every animal you work with at the same time. You know,
I
it's
agree.
it's not, you don't have to be this, stone cold, like snake mill type person. You can have a nice small collection, make a decent chunk on the side, along with your regular income, and enjoy the hobby. But it does become a small business, and you have to think about all the overhead that comes with it, you know, because you're thinking about, setups and uh, you know how this part works, right? The how you take care of your snakes daily and weekly and monthly. But that food part comes in. Now, are you doing frozen? Is it strictly frozen? Like, do you have a local person you're getting rodents from? Some of these guys don't eat frozen. Some of these guys, don't
Right.
are difficult in that fat. You have to work on getting them over, and that takes time. Before the animal, for the most part, before any of these animals go to a show or hit morph market, they have to be on frozen thawed. They have to be. They have to be. And it's not because it's my choice 100%. I don't mind it. But it's not because it's 100% my choice. It's because that person, I don't know what
Right.
their situation is on that side. So I'm trying to help the consumer out at the same time, so that, number one, they don't have any issues with the animal. Number two, it's good. It's good business. It's just plain good business, taking care of that consumer, because then they're
Right.
probably going to come back or recommend someone else. Word of mouth is a
Right.
big deal.
And for me, if they're local, I got the
Local's even
rat.
better.
So if
Local's
they're
even
local
better.
and you're getting started into breeding, having those weans, having the smaller prey items.
Mhm.
I have a
It's
return
it's tough.
customer.
It's tough for certain people, and sometimes it's tough on the other end too, because someone will buy an animal and they'll be like, "Oh, you sure you fed it frozen?" I'm like, 100%. Animals change. They go from my environment to someone else's environment, and they don't want to eat. There's stresses. I don't know what's going on in your house. I don't know what the smells are in your house. You may
Right.
have 10 cats. You may have, the foods you make, the cologne someone, like all these weird things that happen. You might have a neighbor that bumps bass 24/7, and that snake's not gonna eat. Like, there's all these factors that we have to think about when it leaves my, our or whoever the breeder's
Right.
care to this other person. But what you offer though on top of that is guidance, like help them, as long as that person reaches out, help them and say,
Definitely.
well, ask the questions, what's going on, this and that. And then if you have to walk them through that whole process again of getting it back on frozen thawed, you can do that. The
Yeah.
good part is most of these snakes pretty much they won't eat maybe the first time. By the second or third time they've already gotten kind of used to it and they start, so but it's about being available for the ones that are still a pain in the ass for certain people.
Yeah, definitely. I have some that will only eat live. It just
Mhm.
how it is. They need that response. I have plenty that take frozen thawed, but I like having the option of, I'm producing more than I need, so there's,
Mhm.
I'm constantly culling and putting in the freezer, trading those out for racking or whatnot. But I have that option where if I need a feeder, it's there. I do the same
It's
thing
right there.
for my
But
lizard.
you
Brings
have to be in
Rubio.
a good position though, like because you can, like we said before, like not everybody can do it. And even here in my spot, like I have it here, and I find that they annoy me more than anybody else because I want things to be like smell free. I don't want anything, nothing, not a drop, because I don't want anybody to know, because it's not so much that I think someone's going to be upset about it, but I don't. Why does my neighbor have to smell rat poop? Like they shouldn't
Yeah.
have to deal with that. That's my issue. So I've done some pretty intense like smell stuff. So it's
Mitigation.
good.
Yeah.
It's
I have
yeah.
I have a HEPA filter thing running in there constantly,
Mhm.
air fresheners, things like that. And I'm cleaning, often. Luckily, I'm friends with the people upstairs, and I sort of give them a heads up if something happened, like something died or a
Mhm.
snake regurged and there's a smell. It's like, hey, heads up, it might stink for like an hour.
Yeah,
But I'm
like
generally on top of that stuff.
I find it all depends on your situation, what you're gonna need. Um, for me, everything changed when we bought a house. You know,
Definitely.
um, which ain't easy. I bought. I don't know when we bought this house. We bought it like 5 or 6 years ago. Um, and it all, it took time. All of that stuff takes time. Well, I'm 40. I'm 43 years old now, and it took a long time just to like land on finding a place to live, being comfortable, and saying, well, let's, I'm gonna build this. I did a lot of moving, so it took me a while to really start. So once we bought the house, that's even though I've been in a hobby since '98, it was only a couple of years ago. I was like, I can do this now. I can definitely do this.
Yeah,
So
and like when you have the space to finally do it, like I live by myself.
mhm.
You've seen how ridiculous my place is filled with enclosures. Like this entire like living room, entryway, dining room, wherever I'm at, is filled almost wall to wall with reptile
Mhm.
enclosures. To the point where I probably need to sell some lizards, get out of some things that I just have for pets. You know, just to make space for my focus. Luckily, this fit perfectly, and I had to move like one thing. Uh, whatever was in this corner, the hatchling rack's there
And you're
now.
gonna keep doing that though. You're gonna keep doing that. You're gonna keep changing. You're gonna keep evolving. You're gonna, you might use this rack system for a while and say, you know what, I want something else. Or, you might say, I really like this. I'm gonna build another one. It really depends. Everything's gonna change. Like this is I use Reptile Basics.
Yeah, I
Um,
have this one
I
is,
really like them.
and then sea serpents below that, and the hatchling rack sea serpents. But you can see all the wood behind me. Uh,
Mhm.
hey, as long as you can keep your temps and humidity and everything's fine, who cares, right?
So, yeah, and making sure like the animals are comfortable. Like there's little factors here and there, but when they're not doing well, like you'll know, but for the most part, yeah, Dylan knows. He just recently had I'm not going to talk about it, but he had
Oh,
a
it's
bit of
bad.
a yeah, some nasty
One of my
snake.
assist feeders did it a
But
couple
I'll
weeks
have him talk about that.
ago.
But yeah, you want to make sure the snake has all of the things that they need, as well as safety and so on as well. But again, when we're talking about like the rodent issue of it, which is a big issue, it really is, especially now where rodent prices
Oh my God.
have
Like
skyrocketed.
buying just like a live feeder is ridiculous. So
Mhm.
so I was looking at and this is when I had a smaller collection, right? So maybe 10 snakes, something like that, before I was breeding and adding to my collection. I'm like, man, I'm spending $50. I'm trying to fill up the Rodent Pro box to make it worthwhile, maybe ordering quarterly, something like that. And I'm like, I'm spending so much money. So I went out and, spent $120 to build a rack system, got some rodents for my buddy. And here we are now 15 months later, and I'm overproducing, with 4 colonies right now. So I think maybe $1 a rodent or something like that is my production cost. I haven't done the math. But it's certainly cheaper because I'm just spending $7 for a thing of pine shavings and $25 for a 50-pound bag, give or take, of Kalmbach, and I'm doing that. So maybe my monthly cost is like $150, give or take.
Yeah,
With
and
how much
it depends on where you are. Prices for things are different everywhere. Like pine shavings and pellets and all that stuff, it's all different. There it goes. That's what happened.
oh
That's what we were talking about yesterday.
oh
Gross.
man. Hey Tammy, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's like there's a dead animal smell and then there's that smell.
Yeah, and
It's
it's all like it's like greasy and smells like it's like fishy almost. It's gross.
yeah, it's
But 3 jumbos is
yeah. I mean that's
bad.
that's worse than a little pinky. And
That's
that smelled
definitely
awful.
worse.
I was on a
But
live when I found it, and I retched. It was like I literally had to throw it in the trash and throw the trash outside
mhm.
to to recover. It's bad,
And
but
you can tell the difference with when, unfortunately, like when a snake passes versus a rodent. Like there's a difference in the smell.
yeah,
I've done this for a long time. There is definitely a difference between
yeah.
in the
I
smell.
lost a banana breeder that I had. I don't know what the hell happened. I made a short of it. It was fine on a Saturday. By like Tuesday, it was dead, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Like
Yeah,
there was
it happens
no
to people
signs
too.
or
People just
anything.
drop dead too. You know.
And I
So unless you get a necropsy, you're really not going to know what happened to that snake.
yeah, and unfortunately, like for me, there it was isolated to that snake. There's no other issues here, but I saw her at the front of the tub, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I pull it out, and she had passed. I was like, oh, that stinks. But she had been off of food. She was relatively new here, but went through quarantine, was fine, and yeah, it just happens. There was no, it wasn't like she had an obstruction or anything. I palpated the animal, there was nothing. She wasn't egg bound or anything. It was just weird. She just went off of food, bred a couple times, and that was it.
So
Unfortunately,
that happens.
it was a younger snake, maybe 5 years old. But that happens. It's part of what we do. Animals die.
Yeah,
Well,
it does happen. I had a 2 years ago. I had a egg bound female. She passed. 3 of the eggs. 3 of the eggs actually did hatch, and I kept one of the babies here.
yeah. I mean, so
She
that's nice that you
so
got that, that lineage from that animal in a hatchling.
and it was actually because she was a double head albino pied, and there was only 3 eggs that made it, and 2 of them were pastel possible double heads, and I got an albino pied,
Oh
a
wow.
female albino pied. So I kept her. I still have her. Obviously, she's right over
Yeah.
there. But these things happen. These things happen. You lose animals. You can't expect to have 1, 2, 3, 400 animals and not lose one. But it's it's something you can expect. Um, you just kind of deal with it. But unless you're having an issue in your collection, if you're having then you should really test your animals and see if there's something going on. But
Oh, definitely. Now, had I saw signs of an infection, something that would have thrown up a red flag. Yeah, I would have pulled everything from my morgue, tested everything, done all that. But it was isolated. It was weird. One of those. I just look in and she's
it
gone.
happens. It happens. It'll happen. I find it. Sometimes that'll happen with babies. Just and it may be it didn't develop right for whatever reason. I've had babies that ate great 3, 4, 5 times, no problem. I open the thing and they're dead, and it's like, oh, I don't know, but you never know. Especially with babies. But with an older one, that's a little funnier.
Yeah. I mean, I one of the first. So that was actually the first ball python I ever had die in my possession here. So it was sort of weird for me. Like, I went away to college and my parents didn't feed or whatever. I had a ball python that escaped in the basement, had a couple burn marks on it, whatever. That died when I was in college. And I mean, that sort of happens. I shouldn't have trusted my parents to take care of an animal they know nothing about.
Well, that's how we learn. That's how we learn.
So my corn snake lived for 15, 16. Like, he was an old dude when he died. But it rarely ate. It was really small its whole life. Maybe ate, a couple times a year. Like, so they were used to, we just have to throw it in, every quarter and the thing will eat. And that wasn't the case. And plus all the stress from, being out in a basement with burns. And it wasn't, at first, it wasn't a great experience with the ball python, but it was definitely something I learned from. And then I had a breeder female that was huge, pound food. I had her, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years. And then we decided, we're going to do this breeding thing. So I sent her up to my buddy who had a male that was ready, and she died in the tub.
It happened.
Yeah. I wanted to get into bearded dragons. That was part of the launch for me. Was I was going to have this clutch from this normal, I forget what the hell we paired it to. I was going to have that clutch shared between me and my buddy, and I was going to have a pretty cool bearded dragon clutch. Unfortunately, what we sexed as a female when we bought it wound up being a male. So I have a big old, German giant. That's not really a cool thing anymore, but a really, really big male. And I had purchased another male that had high colors. I mean, it was a really, really, really cool animal. Unfortunately, it went into brumation right before the first breeding season would have happened, and it didn't come out right. So I had like 2 setbacks in the year, and that was really discouraging. But I wound up getting 2 females. Now they're pets, and it's just a lot of, if you're dealing with lizards, it's a lot of babies and a lot of room. So
yeah, I did beardeds for a little while, and you get from one female within like a 4-month period, you're gonna get 2 or 3 clutches, and each clutch is 25, 30 babies. And if you can't handle that and have a place to go, and I don't think people realize how much bearded dragons can breed. Like, this female was dropping a ton of babies. This was like 12 years ago. I was doing it, and I was doing leatherbacks. I had these red sapphire leatherback types, and they were really, really, really nice. And I was doing shows, and at a point, I was wholesaling. There were so many babies. I was just wholesaling them out. It was a lot because they need to eat a lot when they're babies. They need to eat a lot, especially bugs. Baby beardeds need more bugs than greens when they're growing, and then as they age, it kind of switches the balance. So as they age, they get older,
insect heavy, and then fruit veg heavy,
and then not so much as they get and they'll tell you that too. You'll kind of see how they're eating and how they behave.
Yeah, I mean, I right now they're pets. The females are all like het hypo, het whiplet. They got some cool genetics, but I don't really have a male. But my buddy, does have a male that I can breed with them, but they're sort of stunted. They're a little small. So right now they're pets. One might be able to breed.
Mhm.
But I mean, they're really, really stunning animals, and they all have their personalities. And my male bearded dragon is just freaking out right now.
And they breed, and they breed where they lock up once, and you can get 2, even 3 clutches from one breeding.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
insane.
so you can't always just depend on, like, you're like, okay, I just want to do one clutch. Yeah, that shit's not gonna happen.
Right, right.
She's gonna
You're gonna have
the
like
second
30
clutch
babies.
might be smaller, if you don't have them together the whole time, but that second clutch you might get like 15 instead of 25 or 30, or you could get surprised and get another 25, and then a third 25, and it's like, oh shit, I got 75 babies within a 4-month period. I got to move these animals and so on.
Right, and if your genetics aren't now with lizards, it's more lines than morphs. There's recessive
Mhm.
stuff that happens, but speaking of Nicole, I'm rocking the shirt. But yeah, it's just a lot, right?
But it's very different because you're also dealing with lighting and different types of substrates too.
Yeah,
If you're using substrates, some people like just a straight tile on the bottom.
So,
It really depends.
so I will tick people off. I try for the most part to do a naturalistic environment. So I do use sand. On all my desert species, they have sand. Now it's the play sand where it's not going to compact like construction sand, which I think that's where we had that whole myth of never on sand. They're not impacted in the wild. They're not impacted in my enclosures, so they're thriving.
Well, play sand is also
It's kid safe.
it's processed differently. So and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but I believe it's more of a smoother, rounder type versus the stuff you're going to use in construction.
Yeah.
So it passes better.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that they're even eating so much of it anyway, but they're you can argue and be like, well, in the wild they're going to do this and that. The difference is they're not in the wild and they haven't been wild. This line of animal hasn't been wild.
Right. It's
so
seeing the breeder's enclosure and my enclosure.
Yeah, it's very different. But again, everybody this goes into all these debates, over how we keep husbandry. How do we do husbandry? How do we what's the best way? And I don't think we should be arguing. I think we should be discussing it, and I think we should be doing it in a way that's the most beneficial for these animals and for the industry as a whole. Because if we shouldn't be bickering and fighting with each other when we have bigger issues to deal with.
Exactly. We're fighting over tubs racking in aquariums when
we have other things that we should be working. Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, it's moot, right? These states
we're fighting with each other, then that means that they win. I don't know. I hate that shit.
Yeah,
but what it comes down to, and again, and I mean, I don't even keep bearded, so I'm not going to argue with anybody, about that.
Well, that's cool. Joe DeStefano worked at the same pet store at different times than you. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I worked at if you're talking about Paradise Aquarium, I worked there. That's how I started. I worked in a pet shop. They've been around since 1963, family owned since 63, 64. And I worked there for like 6, 7, 8 years. That was a long time. And that's how I started, and that was like 98. I started working there. And it's an exotic pet shop. It's mostly fish and birds and so on, and reptiles. And I wasn't really into the reptile stuff. And I learned and I got really interested in, and my boss told me, he was like, take a book home, read it, bring it back, and I never brought the books back. I just paid for them, and I just started buying books because this was still internet, early 98 internet, early type bullshit. So we weren't really getting online and getting a lot of information.
Yeah. I mean,
so,
I feel like now, so I've been, like I said earlier, I've been keeping since I was, I don't want to say in diapers, but pretty darn close. Like 6, 7 is when I got my first reptile, and I'm 33 now. I'm going to be 34, and like the knowledge change from then to now is just, it blows my mind. We were keeping heat rocks and that AstroTurf crap, and our husbandry was awful in the 90s.
It was awful because it was about and
We didn't know.
I'd love to talk about this in like a big thing with a bunch of people too. But I find that back in the day, it was more about aesthetic, and simplicity, and almost, easily dispose of type stuff. Like you get a setup, here's a branch, here's a heat rock, here's the fake carpet, and your little picture, your picture background, and then you throw a heat lamp on there, if that, and you put an animal in there, and you do whatever whenever you feel like, and then it dies, and you just get another one. It was very just display type until people started really getting into the hobby or learning more. But the reason they're learning more is because the information was becoming more available.
Right, and it's not as like I feel now. I didn't experience this, but I've just learned, from talking to people that have been in it for a long time, that it was much more like cutthroat back then. Like,
it was
we are all competing. I'm going to sell you this, snake that
don't buy from him. Don't buy from him. You're going to get mites. Don't buy from that guy. His animals don't eat. Don't buy from him. He's a flipper. Like it's all this shit. And I remember like seeing people argue about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it was stupid. It was really stupid because we're not helping each other. Like if we're crapping on each other, you're crapping on the entire hobby. You're not really helping the next person. All you're doing is teaching them how basically to just be like that. You're like, oh, I'm gonna be in here, I gotta make sure that I'm the top, and I'm gonna beat out everybody. And
selling
but then who's buying from you? Like who's buying from you then? Like if I can't have a stake in this industry, then why the hell am I gonna buy anything from you if you're not gonna tell me and I'm not gonna learn? Like it's this whole it was like a very gatekeeping type. And I was young. I was like 18, 19 years old when I first started doing shows and getting into the hobby, and nobody wanted to talk to me, and it was really annoying. And luckily I worked somewhere where I got a lot of information, and I met more people through the job, and I did shows and I met people. And I find like if you have someone that's in the hobby and you want to learn, just ask. I when I do shows, I was at a show once in Oregon. I did this Portland show with Tucker. I was with Tucker, and he was like, oh, can a friend of mine come? He's curious about such and such. And I was like, yeah. And his friend Colin spent the whole day with us. It was a weekend show. It was 2 days. We did 2 days. He came back and he was learning. And after a while, second day and first, I think he was there for the second day. But I remember at the end of the first day, he was engaging and talking to people and, and saying what he had learned. Other people had come up to me and were asking me questions. There was a couple, very young couple, and they were asking all these questions. And I said, look, if this is something you're interested in, keep walking around, keep asking questions. If someone doesn't want to engage with you, that's okay. Just move along. It's fine. But try to find someone that you kind of connect with and ask them and say, hey, can I help you on the next show? Volunteer with a vendor, not necessarily with the venue. And some people watching this might know what I'm talking about. But if you can get cool with a vendor and, maybe you bought something from them and you really like the way that they did their business or talked to you, or they were very nice to your kids, because some people ignore kids. Just ask. What's the worst thing they can do? Be like, oh no, I don't really have people I don't know back here, or what. But that's another really good way to learn, is to go to a show, ask lots of questions, pay attention to what the breeders are doing, how look for setups, be like, oh, I really like that guy's display, that's cool, where'd you get this display? I haven't started yet, but I'm really curious about getting into it.
Oh, definitely.
And when you start getting that, you start getting that fever. We all know about it. We're like, oh wow. And now you're these other people, everybody's interacting with you and you're getting all this information, and you start doing shows and you start seeing the same people. After a while, maybe you start breeding a couple and you want to do a show, but you don't have enough for a table. How many times have I had to share one table with like 2 other people because we all had like 5 animals, but we all wanted to do the damn show, So just go, just go and ask lots of questions and have a good time.
Yeah. So I mean, here's one in the chat. Why do some breeders talk down on people that come into the game heavy and buy a lot? Right? Like, I have money and I just bought everything. Like Miguel. People talk crap on him for getting in heavy. Well, he's successful. Who cares?
So I think that there's, I think people are looking at it. We all can look at it from different angles, right? You know, if we look at something, depending on what our situation is and what we want to do, and someone else in a different situation coming into what we do, you know, some people can look at him and be like, damn, he just bought his way in here. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't do this. There's a lot, but it's what these people are doing with it. You can come in heavy, and I've seen this over the years. You come in heavy, buy a bunch of stuff, blow out, breed crazy, blow out stuff, you know, kill the market. I've seen a lot of that weird shit happen, and people get right out after that. They made their money and they got out. But then there's people that have gotten a hobby because maybe they're just in a better financial situation, so they can afford to buy the shit that they really like right now.
Yeah.
I can't shit on a guy like him, because what is he doing right now? You know, what's he doing right now? Is he just collecting a check, or is he still doing the same thing? He's still doing
he's
the same
active.
thing.
You know, even me, small guy, I've had conversations with Miguel. I've had conversations with a lot of people in this hobby, you know, from big to small. And I think that's really, really cool that, you know, somebody gives me the time of day.
But
You know,
they
even
should,
if
because
it's
everybody's just a person. You're just a person. Like, nobody here is godlike, okay? Everybody's a person. We also, whether or not we started with a $50 collection with homemade racks, or a $500,000 collection, and we spent another $25,000 on infrastructure, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We're all doing the same thing. We're all in it for the same reasons. So someone who's at a top tier spending money shitting on people that can't afford big ticket items, and then people that are kind of like really fighting our way through, or you know, still figuring it out, and then we're looking at these people spending like $500,000 and stuff, and then we're shitting on them. Either way, it's just shit flowing both ways, you know.
It's
because
something.
that person that's spending $80,000, $100,000 get into the hobby still has to ask questions, still has to figure out what they want to do, still has to find out what projects there's. Even though you're spending this much, you're still learning down here. You're still learning from the bottom up. Just because you spent this much doesn't mean you know this much. Okay.
Definitely.
And just because your collection is $50 collection doesn't mean you don't know shit. So
Exactly.
It's about conversations and talking to people, and figuring out how we can not only just work together, but how we can make this hobby a lot stronger.
And how we can grow.
We need, and it should grow, you know, and it has been growing. And believe me, it's a lot better now than it used to be. So,
but you know, one of the things, you know, back to the whole, you know, pandemic breeders, that thing that we were talking about, and people getting out, it's like you bought all these, you know, breeder ready animals, and you got overwhelmed with the amount of clutches and the amount of work that, you know, goes on. I mean, even like one clutch can be a lot of work, you know, if you have to assist feed. You know, if you got in too big before you actually realize what this entails. Right, so you bought a bunch of fancy animals for a lot of money, and you didn't realize the work that actually goes in. There's a lot of work. You know, I'm always cleaning. So most of the time when I'm watching everybody else's podcast, I'm cleaning something or feeding something, or you know, dealing with something. It's almost another full-time job on top of my full-time job. So yeah, I do the social media thing. Yeah, that takes some time, but you know, it's just showcasing, you know, what I do. You know, if I one of the things I want to do is just put a camera up there and just go through, you know, here's me deep cleaning. And
you can. A lot of people do that, especially with rodents. I've seen like rodent videos, like where people trying.
Like, here's me taking an entire day to deep clean everything, new substrate, new everything, not just spot cleaning. That it sucks. It's my friends will ask me, hey, do you want to, you know, do something? No, I gotta clean. You know, I don't work, you know, on the weekends, so it's a day that, you know, you have to plan with me so I can hang out on the weekends. Otherwise, I'm cleaning.
And that's the thing too. You could spot clean all you want, but then you walk in one day after work, and like 3 of them blew that shit out, and you got to clean them. You know, but that's the same thing. It's like for me, when I'm in here or in the rodent room, I find when I'm listening to podcasts, or watching YouTube videos or whatever, running in the background. Sometimes I'm not really watching unless someone's trying to show something. Then I run up to the screen to look real quick.
Right. You hear that
You know?
genetics, and you're like, oh, I got to see that.
I got a snake in one hand and some dirty shit, and I'm looking at the, you know, and because I want to see it real quick. And the cool thing about these videos for me, having them running while I'm cleaning, is it keeps me invigorated. Like I'm still clean. Like it helps me kind of keep going because I'm listening to what I love. I'm doing what I love. I have said it a million times. I love this shit. I will always do this. Like this has been 20 something years. Yeah, it took me a while to really think about it and get serious with it and really want to do it full time or whatever you want to call it. But it took me a while to think really clearly about what I wanted to do. And it's just always been there. Every time life pulls you out of it, I always kept coming back. And I'm really grateful that I'm in a fortunate situation that I can do this now. I'm really happy that I can do this now. So I'm more than satisfied, and I'm seriously grateful for being able to do this. You know, I've been trying to do this since I was a kid. You know, I've loved this stuff for so long, and having all this stuff in my head, you know, that I want to do now that I can do it. I'm really happy, but I like sharing it though. So I want to share this with people, and listening to podcasts and listening to other people share their experiences and stories while I'm cleaning snake shit. You know, it helps me keep going, and I hope someone's cleaning some shit right now. You know, I really hope that the sound of my voice and they're scrubbing a tub.
Yeah, maybe we bring up something that they haven't thought of, right? So that's one of the things.
We all do things differently.
Like, you know, getting a male back on food, or, you know, getting a stubborn male to breed. You know, you might hear something that you didn't think of, like, oh, the snake bag or pillowcase trick, you know, or take them for a ride.
There's other things too, like when you watch all these videos, there's a lot of old school tricks that people don't know about. And Lone Star, what's his name? I forget his name. Earl from Lone Star. He had mentioned the vanilla extract trick, which is something I used to do a long time ago at the pet shop. I learned that at the pet shop, you know, back in the late 90s. I learned that from them, you know. And there's a lot of other tricks that I learned from back in the day that do work too, that I don't hear anybody talking about, and I sort of forget until my brain
happens
kicks in
again, and you have to deal.
Well, my brain will kick in and go into like the reserve mode. Like, wait, I know I got something back here. Move all the boxes out of the way. You know, dust off that file. I'm like, oh yeah, the vanilla trick. I forgot about that. You know, and these things are things we used to get baby ball pythons to eat. We used to get imports. You know, this is back when we used to get a bag of 50 imports. It probably had fucking yellow bellies and all this shit in there too. And I'm kicking myself now. But
you didn't realize back then what was there.
Yeah, we didn't know. I didn't know. I probably had $10,000 worth of animals going through my hands every day. But they, one of the tricks we used to use, we would take to get them to eat. We would take the snake, put them in a paper bag with a pinky, a real small paper bag, and just tape the tops and just put them on the side. That's it. Just leave them alone. Put them in the edge of the cage, in the corner, so on. The bag is breathable. I would actually take a hole puncher, you know, pop a little hole in the top.
Yeah.
But the bag is pretty breathable. 9 times out of 10, the next morning,
it's gone.
The pinky was gone. Mm-hmm.
So
these little tricks that I kind of, you know, keep in the back of my head if I need to do them.
So one of the ones that I've seen people do, you know, for, you know, a hatchling, whatever. So when you're assist feeding, you want to feed something that's smaller, right? Because you're force feeding an animal. Generally, that's not the most nutritious thing. You're just getting it food. So one of the things I've figured out and I've seen other people do is we call it a choo-choo train, right? Mm-hmm. So you assist feed the pinky, and then whatever the appropriate sized normal prey item would be, you know, as they're eating that, you sort of push that one in. So they get, you know, the assist fed meal, and then, you know, they get their proper meal, and hopefully that flips the switch. And I still have one that I'm assist feeding. She's a pain in the butt.
We used to do that all the time at the shop. We had some animals that, would be. That's where I learned it. That's where I learned the choo-choo train. They were like feeding. I do actually. I do.
Yeah, it's in the description of the video, or at least it should be.
And I'm going to be adding more. I haven't had a lot of time. I got to take pictures. That's the thing. I got a lot of stuff available, but I'm slowly putting everything up there. I'm really critical. I take pictures and I erase them all because I hate them.
Oh,
and then I got to go and do it again.
Yeah, I think for the ones I have up, I have to take new pictures because
I just can't get what I'm looking at. I'm trying to help you see, and I don't edit.
Right.
I don't want to edit the pictures. I think that's weird. So I try to, I want you to see as best I can. Even at shows, I have them in a deli cup, and I'll pop the tops off because even that'll mute the colors sometimes.
Yeah. So for me, I posted I had an Instagram post the other day of what a camera can do, and I took a picture of my Ultramel pinstripe male, and in the one you see what the camera takes unedited, and then when I adjust the white balance and everything, and the thing looks like darker and like more monarch than Ultramel, and it's like
some things just don't come through right. Like I have animals here that people have seen in person. They're like, oh wow, I saw a picture of this, and I didn't. Like, I know, right? Like I can't. Like some of the oranges, I work with Orange Dream, and some of these oranges, like they don't come through right, or they're very washed out. And
right.
I tried doing like a little editing with it to kind of make it, change the saturation, make it so you could try to see what I see. But all I see is it looks fake, so I can't do it. It's weird. It's really weird.
I agree.
I'm not a tech person either. I don't know how to fix that. I want to take a nice picture, post it, and we're good. Like, and if you have questions, ask away. Anybody could ask me, whatever. It's fine. Even if I don't have it up there. If you saw it on my Morph Market and or on my Instagram and I'm working with it, just ask.
Yep,
I have stuff available. I just haven't posted everything.
YT events. Tinley is next weekend, so not today. So it's the 17th, 18th, 19th. All right. It's nice to know that we sound good in a car. Thank you, Ken. Yeah. Just the like having the right picture of like what I see, I want you to see, and trying to get the camera to do that, because with certain animals, it's just
it's like
your default setting is not working.
So this girl here, I posted her on Morph Market, and she's a special het pied, and it's hard to see that she's really light colored. She's got a lot of, here it almost looks like a normal, but
I mean, you can see the like yellowing, blushing,
but she's really pretty. She's got a lot of blushing. She's definitely a het pied.
Railroad tracks.
You cannot miss.
Oh my god,
you can't miss that. No.
Wow.
And she's just really, really pretty, and you just I can't. It's hard to really show you what I see. It's just real hard.
Stan is asking if you have a special het clown.
No, I don't work a lot with clown. I'm kind of a rare breed. I have one clown in my collection.
Wow.
I have one clown and 2 het clown females, and that's it. I like clown, but a couple years ago, it just felt like it was
everything.
If it's not clown, it's not good, and I don't really believe that. So I decided to do other things just to see. But I love clowns. No, I'm good. I'm good, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Run.
He only lives like 4 blocks away from me. So
wow, you guys are really, really close.
Yeah, we're like super close. When I went away, he was the one actually watching my stuff for me. My rodents and stuff.
So we were talking about that backstage. So when you go away, what's your game plan?
Dylan. That's my game plan. I had to go back to New York for a couple things twice. So I went back in December, and then I had to go back in January. And the way I'm set up, I can probably go 5 days without touching my rodent. So I don't have to go in there for about 5 days. I don't like that. so I'm not going to do that. So I was gone the first time. I think I left for about I was gone for 12 days. He was gone for like 12 days, and he came by like 2 or 3 times during that. Seriously appreciated it. And the second time, I think I was only gone for like 3 or 4 days. So I told him, you don't have to go unless I get stuck out there. I wasn't sure when I was coming back. I had a bunch of family stuff to take care of. And I was out there with my wife and my son, so we weren't 100% sure how long it was going to take to get everything done. So I had to fly back. They stayed they were out there for like a month and a half, but I came back because of this stuff. And, but I had to go back to kind of like finalize everything what was going on. And, luckily I have Dylan and his girl Amanda.
That's a great resource to have
for
the
two of them.
Somebody that knows what they're doing to be able to
check on everything. They came by. They helped out a lot. I really appreciate Amanda. She's really knowledgeable too. That's Dylan's girlfriend. She knows the shit too. So I really appreciate the both of them. And it's been cool. And I know a lot of things like this is gonna be like a rodent conversation anyway. But that's how we met. That's how I met Dylan. I went. Okay. I had been breeding rats, and I have ball pythons. But when you have rats, what do you have? You have adults, and you got to cycle out your adults. Well, what the hell? I don't have anything big enough to feed, jumbo, or like what you call those big ass colossal rats. Like I got, retired females and males. You know how big a male can get after a year and a half? Like a year and a half, they're massive. And I'm like, I don't know anybody. So I had a guy who used to buy rodents for me, and he told me he bought a snake from Dylan. He was like, oh, he was really nice to me. He talked to my daughter. He was very, he's really knowledgeable, blah, 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 blah. And I knew he was local. I knew he was in Tacoma. And he's got berms. He's got Burmese pythons. He has big snakes. And I'm like, I just want to get rid of this shit. So, because I had 2 garbage bags full in my freezer. Because that's how many rodents I was breeding. I was breeding a lot of fucking rats. So I shot him a message and I was like, hey man, you want some jumbos? I don't want them. I was like, I don't want them, man. And he came by, we started talking. I gave him the rats, we talked, and like it was like stepbrothers. We were like, did we just become best friends? And like it was it. That was it. And we've been cool ever since. That was like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And we do shows together. And Tucker, he lives down in Oregon, and the 3 of us do shows together. So when one of us can't make it to a show, the other 2 takes the other person's stuff if we can, and or all 3 of us go and we just we watch each other's stuff. And then we'll have John from Pandemic Pythons. He helped us in the last show. Lots of big help from him. It's always good to have. It's always good to have extra people at your table, even if they're just hanging out.
Right. So you can go meander throughout the show, and somebody watching your stuff. So
there's 2 big reasons for me personally. The 2 biggest reasons to having extra people at your table is extra eyes, because people got sticky fingers. No matter how much your shit is locked up, watch your stuff. And also, I have to use the bathroom, man. I gotta run to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I need to be sure that I can do that. There's no way you're going to stand there for 10 hours and not have to pee. So, and I'm talking all day long. So I'm drinking, I got to drink coffee, water, whatever I'm drinking. And
you're Danny from DTMG, you're drinking Yoo-Hoo all day.
Yeah, even that's good for your throat. I don't know. But the thing is, but on top of that too, having other people there is somebody to talk to. It's really good to have someone to talk to and kind of like, be like, oh man, today I'm so tired. What a day. I only slept a couple hours last night, which is every breeder at a show. How many hours did you get? Like 2, maybe. I don't know. Like,
when did you get here? Did you let me in the side door? Come on now.
Yeah, like I'll let you in the side door. I know who you are. Like, hey, come on in. But with the when you're doing shows like that, have extra people. And that's a whole other topic. We're trying to we're trying to talk about rats today. But
I feel like we've covered a lot of
kind of run the gamut
stuff for pretty much an unscripted live. Like I didn't. I just said we're going to talk about rats and snakes, and Angel was like, okay. So
Yeah, I don't care. I've been around for so long. I've done a lot. I've bred a lot of different animals too. I've worked with a lot of different animals. I was really fortunate growing up in New York and going to the White Plains show. The White Plains Expo is it's great. It's great.
Is it back? Is
And
that the one that they're all
they just
like,
came back. Yeah, they just came back.
okay.
And you're definitely closer than I am. If you can make a trip out there, now it's a 2-day show. I went back in 2019, right before they shut it down, and it was their very first super show. So they did the main level and the basement. So it was 2 floors,
Wow.
and it's and like picture like a school. So you have like a school like gym, like a big school gym with like a stage, and then downstairs is the cafeteria. So figure those 2 big areas, and then on the first floor they had little rooms off to the side where they had more vendors. You
Okay.
know, so it was massive. It was massive. I was there all day. I went just for 1 day on Saturday, and I was there with my friends from New York. My old boss from the pet shop. We went with a couple other guys that worked at the pet shop or did work there. Um, you know, that's the thing about that shop. You work there, you're all family. You all become family. So even if it's was my generation or the next generation that worked there after me or the people from before, we all meet at the shop. The shop was a big, joining meeting place for us. And that expo was nuts. I did that expo when I used to live out there, and it wasn't that big. Like now, it's awesome. It's definitely worth a go. Definitely worth a go.
Yeah. For
You
me,
know?
like in Pennsylvania, we have like these smaller 1-day shows where it's all your local guys. So to have like a bigger show, that would be ideal on the East Coast or the Mid Atlantic. Like we don't have a big show. Hi, Stella. So we
It's a
have
good
all
show to go to.
little small
You know?
shows that we all sort of are competing against each other.
And then there's a difference too, because I do shows
Yeah,
out
man.
here, and I've done shows out there, and
We got
you
up to
can
25.
see the difference in like what's available. Like in the East Coast, there's a lot of turtles, a lot of like sort of like aquatic type of things. You find more out there. At least I find more turtles out there than I do out here. You know, a lot more turtle and tortoise breeders and so on, as well as a lot of colubrid breeders on the East Coast. Lots and lots of colubrid breeders on the East Coast.
Yeah, yeah. We have a lot of. Mostly it's all ball pythons, but there are your niche. Crested geckos are making a comeback. And a couple other types of species, but when you find that one that's just doing colubrids or like hog noses or something like that, and the stuff they have on their table is just like incredible.
And most colubrid breeders have lots of stuff. They're gonna have everything, and they're gonna have milks, corns, kings, all these different things. And a lot of those breeders on the East Coast have been around for years, and their collections are I just like calling them aged or seasoned. Like they have these beautiful collections that are closed collections that they've only been breeding in their own stuff, and they rarely add anything,
Right. So they have all these nice lines and
yeah, and I could spout a dozen of these guys that have been around since I started that are still doing those shows. They just don't have a big online presence. They just don't, they don't do all that stuff, but you look at their collection and you're like, wow, I've never seen this before. Where
right.
can I see this? And he's like, at my house. Like,
yeah, I've seen
you'll
some
never
hog
see this
noses that I'm like, wow.
There's a guy out there. I don't know if he's still around. He had Theri. He had some of the most like beautiful Theri I'd ever seen. And he will stand there and talk to you and give you every bit of information about them, how he does it, everything. And I think he was just called Theri, Theri.com or something like that. And he was an older cat. It was a long time ago. But these guys, they got into the hobby a long time ago, and they really stuck with that thing,
Definitely.
So you'll see like amazing lineages of like, gray band kings and, people that had black Mexican kings way before the boom. And then they did really good because they still had them, once they got super popular again.
So you've heard my dog whining. I'm pretty sure she wants to go out. So normally I get about an hour in before we have to do this. So I'm gonna minimize myself, take her out, deal with her, and we've shown off one snake. So
Yeah,
now's the time in the show where Angel's gonna show off what everything is fire in his collection. And I say fire, but I
Okay.
might mean vanilla.
Yeah, I do work with vanilla. I primarily
so,
work with vanilla. Yes.
so I'm gonna put you up on
Um,
the solo. Just show up. Maybe some of the stuff you got for sale. Some of the stuff that you just want to show up. Like what makes you Angel Carro Reptiles. Boom.
okay.
You're
I
right.
will do that. So
There you
yeah, I
go.
primarily work with vanilla. So I will show you some vanilla stuff. I didn't prep anything, unfortunately. Let's see. Hopefully I don't get nailed while I'm doing this. Actually, these guys just ate the other day, so I don't want to go too crazy. This guy's unfortunately going into shed, but this is a super vanilla orange dream. So this guy's last year baby. He's possible yellow belly. I don't think he's yellow belly. He could be yellow belly. If anybody there thinks that's a yellow belly, let me know. It's possible. But he is he is a super orange dream vanilla. Sorry, not a super vanilla. He's a super orange dream vanilla. Possible yellow belly. And he's available. He is definitely available. I think he's on Morph Market. I think I did post this guy. He's available. Go. And this is his brother, who is a pastel super orange dream vanilla yellow belly. It's very blushed out. That's yellow belly for sure. And he is a super orange dream vanilla pastel yellow belly. Lots of blushing. And this guy is also available. He is on Morph Market, yeah, I believe. I can't see if anybody's commenting, so hopefully I'll catch up if anybody has any questions. And if there's something I took out, you wanted to see it again, just let me know. And these guys are on Frozen Thought. This guy's just got super dope. Like his belly, like look at this. This guy is just crazy cool looking. Let's see what else we got for you guys. I'll show you guys a special before. She was a special het pied, and this is a special pied. He is pretty much all white. He's got the black eyes with the red pupils, but he has a little tiny mark on his tail. And this guy also is available, and he is also on Morph Market. Anything you guys see today, just shoot me a message. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. It's a little tiny little butt stamp, a little butt saddle. He's cool. Most of these guys are pretty cool. I tend to handle them a lot. What else?
All right, I am back. Sorry, I have a senior dog.
Nah, it's all good.
That
All good.
She likes to annoy me when I do lives, and always has to use the restroom.
It's all right. This girl is unfortunately going into shed 2, but she's a vanilla cream orange dream.
So vanilla cream, that's what, fire and vanilla, right?
Fire and vanilla, yeah. So you get this really cool, like washed out head stamp, which is no head stamp. So if I can get her to stay still. She's also horrible taking pictures. I cannot get good pictures of this girl. She never stays still, ever.
Yeah, I always, right? You always have that one that there we go.
See the top of her head.
So it's got that fire vanilla, that blushed out.
And then she's got
YT Vents is asking, what were the genes in that pied?
No, it was a special pied.
Special pied.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one copy of special, one copy pied.
So I'll have to go back after we're done and watch and see, the snakes I missed, because, I think special, as far as like a bell complex gene, it's
awesome.
It lives up to its name, right?
Yeah, you don't get a white snake. You get 2 doubles. You don't get a white snake. You also get a crystal, and you breed it to a Mojave.
So I feel like in the bell complex, Mojave, stands its ground. It does great things on its own. But like special bamboo, some of these newer genes that are in that complex really, I think, are the future of that, blue-eyed Lucy.
And there's more. A lot of people look at certain things and they like, okay, the super forms, and whether you're doing allelic super forms or double copy of a super, to make a super form, there are some super forms I don't think are being used that well. I think or underutilized. Like, I think that's why I use super vanilla. I use vanilla because I think super vanillas are fantastic. I think they're incredible.
In super
but
vanilla,
then there are some. What's up?
Super vanilla beats super fire.
I think so. But then again, there's nothing whiter than a super fire as far as white snakes go. They're so white, in comparison. They're pied white. They're that white.
Right. So, with a super fire, this wouldn't look like this, right?
No.
So hold on, let me make me
So
solo.
this one here too.
Super vanilla trick,
yeah.
right? And if this was fire, it'd be pretty much a white snake.
If you was super fire, you'd never see, you wouldn't know the trick. I have 2 super fires, and they're both 50% possible orange ghosts, but they're also both 50% possible orange dreams. But I can't tell if they're orange dreams.
Right. So I mean, we run into this issue, not frequently, but sometimes where we put a bunch of genes together and we can't really, we have to sort of
So like this girl.
Oh, well, thank you. I've gotten more subscribers since this morning.
There you go.
All right, man. Thank you, Boza. Appreciate you. Super supportive. Super classic.
So this girl is a vanilla. She's a vanilla cream. So we're looking at vanilla, fire. She's a super pastel, and she's an orange dream.
Nice. Hold on,
she's possible super orange dream. Both parents were orange dream. But she's just yellow. She just keeps getting more and more yellow as she gets older. And this dorsal stripe, which is what I find in the vanilla complex, in super vanillas, you'll get this dorsal striping. They're very much like the koi fish of the ball python world because they look really nice from the top down.
Yeah, I mean, she's really, really, really nice.
She's a really pretty snake. There's lots of cool genes in her.
No recessive,
pretty
right?
Head. No recessive. No recessive. The look at the white. Her head is like a pale white.
Wow. I mean, and you said that
her color is just incredible.
2 supers in there?
This is
vanilla super pastel.
No, it's a vanilla cream. So it's an allelic super and a super pastel. So you got the vanilla cream,
super pastel. So I mean,
super pastel and orange dream. Possible super orange dream? I don't think so, but
you'll find out. I mean,
both. Well, she's for sale. Somebody will find out. So if anybody's interested in her, Just shoot me a message.
I mean, I got entirely too many pastels, but
And that's
Throwing open
understandable.
there?
Pastels are weird. Pastels are a thing that, like, you know, has this really bad stigma, but that's just because it's everywhere, you know. But if you utilize anything the right way, you know, look at Pastel Desert Ghost, incredible. Look at,
oh
you
yeah,
know, you
So-
can't like it's like, look at this dude. This guy's incredible. He's so this guy's a pastel super vanilla orange dream. I get a better shot. So this is pastel super vanilla orange dream.
so that's bringing out like all the yellows.
So the pastel is really giving out these really big blushing to allow that yellow to come through that the orange dream is producing.
Oh man, I actually like the blushing in the
Blush
drip.
on its head. All of this
Really
gets
cool.
just super opened up. The pastel is not washing anything out. It's an incredible animal. This is a breeder. He's like 3. He's like 3 years old. And he's the one pretty much making a lot of my vanilla stuff this year. But he's the dad of the last 2 that I showed you too.
Nice. I mean, I feel like you know, with pastel, you have to have that line. Like what I texted you yesterday, like what you saw on that one. It's a pastel. I'll bring her out. She's probably ready to go in the shed. She's dripping water, but put me on solo. Just the pattern.
Right.
This looks
I mean,
like my super pastel, but you can telltale sign of the head
she
shape.
looks like she might even be het for something.
She might be hep-eyed.
You know,
That's the only thing I can see visually. There was really nothing. We thought it might be a firefly, just given the pattern, but it wasn't in the pairing, and the head stamp doesn't dictate that. But it's just a really, really, really nice pastel.
And that's, but that's, you know, to look at it in you know, in different ways. You can add pastel or not. It doesn't matter. Some people don't like yellow belly. Some people don't like albinos. You know, it's fine. There's enough combos, morphs, genes, whatever you want to do out there to do whatever you want. You know, you don't have to worry about it. Pastel's not your jam, don't buy pastel.
Yeah.
If it's not your jam and you have pastel in your collection, don't be mad that you produce pastels. Like, it's what happens. If you got it in there, it's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
don't produce them.
I
don't mind, because I'm producing them in something that they work really well together.
Right. So like in fire, vanilla,
Fireflies are really nice. Fireflies are really pretty.
You know, bumblebee. You know, a spider pastel. You know, I have a bumblebee spark that is phenomenal looking. So I mean, it really depends on what you're working. I mean, don't hate on a gene. Maybe you just got a ugly representation of it, and you know,
And then there's
the right combination.
But then there's genes that I feel are also used just for the one purpose. So let's take Spectre. Okay, you put Spectre with yellow belly, you get super stripes. But what else is going on with Spectre? You know, for years people were just using Special and Mojave and making crystals. What was going on with Special? Nobody was doing anything. Now people have Special in Clown. Now people have Special in Pie.
Right.
You know, so now people are starting to use Special. You know, the Special is where they found the monsoon gene. You know, so they're special. So look at other genes that are being used for just these add-ons. You know, so like you look at Spectre. So I showed you a super vanilla pastel orange dream. This girl, she's a super vanilla Spectre.
So is the Spectre what's bringing out those yellows?
The Spectre is what a yellow belly would do with this is give you lots of blushing, the dripping pattern, and so on. And I find Spectre and vanilla work really well together. They just do. Even I've had some single gene I've had some double Spectre vanillas, just straight Spectre vanillas, and they were really cool. They have this darker look to them. They have this like gritty gravel, like almost a granite pattern that people like. But when you put the other vanilla in there, it cleans what you, I don't know if you can see, but inside there's orangey blush. It's really hard to see. You can kind of see it there.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's Spectre and vanilla working together to make this,
that's really cool.
and Super Vanilla is just, it's very underrated. Is she also possible? I think she's also possible. No, she's not. I thought she was possible head for Orange Ghost. I have Orange Ghost all over my collection.
Yeah, I'm starting to. I have that in my clown, Orange Dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I
like Orange Ghost. I dig it.
I have the potential to hit double visuals.
You can see though with
maybe
this,
late this year, and I'm really looking forward to hitting that clown hypo with Orange Dream, possible blade in there.
These lines are like the what you get with your Yellow Belly.
Okay.
But when you have, I believe when you have Yellow Belly and Super Vanilla, you get more blushing and so on. But with this, you still keep the Super Vanilla patterning with these big fat alien heads and a lot of the blush, but it just lightens and cleans it up. So Spectre is really it's a cool gene for things like this. It's a really cool gene.
Mean, just finding that right, like I have only Yellow Belly I actually own is a Spark. I have a ivory male here on a breeder loan. He's not doing work, so sorry, Terrence. I won't have Yellow Belly everything this year.
And you know what though? The only reason that I even have this animal is because I bought a pastel vanilla Spectre female adult years ago to get myself rolling, and I started just keeping back some of the Spectre stuff. I was like, this shit is cool. Like it really looks cool, and thinking about how that works together, and you're like, okay, well, Spectre and vanilla, you're looking at, another type of yellow belly complex, and so on. But with Spectre and vanilla, and then you add some leopard.
Yeah,
so vanilla.
I love leopard. Like
vanilla Spectre. I'm guessing pastel from the head, but the rest of the body doesn't really scream pastel to me.
What are the eyes like that bluish hue?
Not really. She's a vanilla leopard Spectre. I don't think she's a yellow belly. I believe she's a Spectre because she's darker and cleaner, and the blushing isn't like what a yellow belly would do. But she's just very busy, very busy.
And there's only like just that tiny bit of blushing, from the belly up. I mean, I think that's really, really cool. The head, I mean, there's vanilla in there. Maybe
the vanilla is what's bringing that yellow out. You're getting that yellow with the vanilla mixed with the leopard and the Spectre, and then what I can only assume is the pastel also working really, really well together.
Yeah, it could just be that there's so much stuff working together that you're not seeing those telltale signs of that pastel.
Mm-hmm. And this is something that we could continue to work on and see that, like, it doesn't always work the same when you combo with these two or with that one or so on. We're all still learning. All of this shit is still learning. We're still figuring it out. And also, let's not forget these line bred things. You keep something in your collection for years. We're only keeping back the nicest stuff. So over time, my Spectre that I've been keeping a line of Spectres. Let's say I've been keeping a line of Spectre for 10 years. Mine look so much different because I've been line breeding my Spectres, and they look very different than anything else. My vanillas I've been working with for years, and they're all line bred, and they look really nice. I have to say, I usually don't talk about myself that way, but I'm busting my ass trying to make these nicer. Like I think vanillas should be more popular. I think they clean, they brighten. They can really give pattern. Very pretty animals. Very pretty animals.
I got my fingers crossed that I'm gonna hit vanilla, trick, blade, clowns, possible het hypos in the future.
There you go.
So I think that animal would look phenomenal. I mean, I don't think she's super trick. Just looking at the or patterning, it doesn't have that like fallopian tube dip down thing. That's super.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's weird to explain it that way, but like a trick will have a dip, but a super trick will have a really big dip down in the alien heads. Um, but yeah, looking forward to the future.
All you just got to keep working. Like I'm late on his guy's going in his shed, but that's vanilla orange dream pied.
That's so
He's in
bright.
shed. He's in
And
shed.
it's that bright.
Mind you.
Wow.
Yeah, he's in shed too. So with this, I want to add more. Let's do another layer. Let's do another layer of vanilla. Another, super vanilla pieds are incredible. Super orange dream pieds are incredible.
But when you have that stacked on in a recessive, everything you're going to make has one copy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the goal. I mean, as breeders, we want to make the best stuff we can possibly make, and having these act like super combos that you can tell, whether it's fire or vanilla or whatever.
And that's the hard part. And that was my biggest doubt. I'd say when I started and because I fell in love with a vanilla cream orange dream that I saw on Morph Market, and that's what did it for me. And from there on, everything I have for the most part, aside from I did get some extra vanillas here and there, and maybe an extra fire line, but I don't even have that one anymore. But for the most part, it's all the same line of OD. I'll tell you that much. All of my OD except for one. I have a super orange dream that I got from Tucker, but she's a baby. Outside of that, all of my orange dream is from the same line, and I've noticed every generation they just get nicer and nicer and nicer. Absolutely nicer and nicer, and that's something I think doesn't really happen thoughtfully in the industry. When you look at leopard geckos and certain other species that we've kept or keep, it's a lot of line breeding, lots of
color lines. Right?
We don't do that very much with ball
Holly
pythons.
Red, Belgian blood, and bearded dragon. Yeah. I'm dating myself.
No, it's fine. I'm dating myself. I don't care.
I mean, I don't think those are the nicest red lines in bearded dragons anymore. But anyway,
this is a single gene yellow belly. This is a single gene yellow belly.
Look at that.
Sort of open her up. These guys all just ate the other day too. So, but this is just a single gene. There's nothing else in her. There's no hets. There's nothing. Single gene, yellow belly.
Nice.
These are the yellow bellies I like to produce. Yeah. Are they the most expensive? No. But how many yellow bellies do you see like this?
Not with that orangish? Not really.
You see what I mean? Like, she's exceptional. She's an exceptional snake. Anybody, and she's for sale. She's available. Anybody, you're going to be working with buy better, buy with your eyes. This animal is she's awesome. I was going to keep her at first, but I don't need any more. But this is what I'm saying. You when you're buying stuff, don't just look at the gene itself.
Look at what it looks like.
Well, that animal's going to go and make, I'll get this yellow belly and I'll just make a bunch of freeways or whatever, and that's fine. But I'd rather make a bunch of nice freeways.
Right.
I'd rather make quality.
Like, I think Bob Vu said it best. Be your own best customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking
absolutely
at what you have, what you produced, maybe this animal has a gene less, but it's visually like stunning. Keep that one. Sell the less appealing, maybe more gene packed animal, but keep the nicest stuff you produce.
And that's all depending on if you can do it, keep it. Right now I kind of can, so I'm keeping some things back, but I'm also, because of that, I'm letting a lot of stuff go. I have a lot of adults that I'm gonna let go. They're not on Morph Market just because they're adults, and those are hard to ship. But if anybody has any questions, let me know. I'll let you know what I have available. Because I have some like double and triple het adult, like ready to breed females and males available that I'm just shifting. Like I'm shifting from that because they're I don't need them. Like I've got the next generation coming through, so these guys can go. But shipping is really expensive for big snakes, so I haven't put them on Morph Market. You know,
Yeah.
I can and say local, and that's fine, but it's tough. You know, it's tough to send. You know, I don't know what that would cost somebody, $150 or
Yeah,
$100
I mean the
maybe.
shipping's
I'm not
stupid
even sure.
for
Especially if
larger snakes.
now if they buy 2 adults from me, 3 adults from me, like that's a big ticket right there. You know, and I'm
But
always willing to work with people on stuff because I get it. You know, I get it. It's tough. You know,
but with that package deal, you might knock some off of the list price. You know, okay, I'm going
oh,
to buy
absolutely,
3 breeders
absolutely.
from
Like,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, 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 yeah,
we
yeah.
might
That's never a
split the
problem.
shipping type of thing.
That's never a problem. I'm also like, if you see me at a show, I am I love haggling. Like, haggle with me, haggle the hell out of me. Don't lowball me. You know, I don't like lowballers. Don't walk up and be like, "I'll give you this much." I hate that shit. But I like a haggle because haggles are fun because it helps me understand how much you want this animal. It helps me understand how much you're going to like really appreciate this animal and or what it is that you need this animal for. Like if you're like, wow, I have a male at home and that female would go like, you know, oh man, like you can tell like when people come up how much they really want something or how happy they are to see something and you know you engage with them and then you know you could tell your tire kickers too if after a while and tire kickers are fine too. You can kick all you want. I'll answer your questions. That's fine, but understand that like if you're not gonna buy anything, that's okay. You can tell me you're not gonna buy anything. I have no problem answering your questions. But the point is that you know when you're at the show and you wanna I'm there to sell stuff, so I have to talk to every single person there.
Right,
You
and
know,
if
and
you're not
that's
talking to
fine.
people,
And that's fine. Ask all the questions you want. You know, especially if someone's selling adults. Like I'm selling adults, you need to know, you know, how they're feeding, how old they are. You know,
how they've bred in the past, that sort of thing, when they go off
and
food.
I have to say that I'm happy that I'm at a point right now. The adults that I'm selling are adults are that were produced here. So they were
That's
produced
pretty cool.
here, and now they've done their job. Some of them didn't even do anything because I decided to shift. So I just have adults sitting here that haven't even bred yet, and they're ready to go on. And I produced them here, you know.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I feel
I'm
good
still
about
waiting for
that.
that moment where I have stuff growing up that I produce
Mhm.
that's breeding that I'm selling. But
That the male that I showed you, this the pastel super vanilla orange dream, I produced him here, and now he's producing babies. This will be his this is his second season producing babies.
sweet.
So he does like what does it say?
Oh,
What would you
what would
consider?
you consider a haggle versus a lowball? Let's throw out I don't know, super
So
vanilla breeder.
so a haggle to me is someone who has been standing there talking to me for a couple minutes about an animal, is really interested, and then you started asking me questions about price. A low ball is someone who walks up to you and gives and throws a price at you right off the bat. You know, and you could tell that all they care about is how much the animal is going to cost them, not what this animal is going to do for them, or what they're going to do for the animal. You know, or
Right.
or trying to develop a relationship with me, the breeder, who you can later on come back and ask me questions because I will deny sales. I've done it before, and I know a lot of breeders that do that too. Whether they feel that the animal is going to be mistreated or this person just came off too hot on them, and they were just like, "Nah, I'm not selling you shit because you're an ass." Like, I don't care. I try to. I'm as professional as I could possibly be, but in a situation where I feel like, no, this is nah, you can keep going. Like, I'm not going to be insulted by you. You know, if I have a $500 animal up and you're like, I'll give you 200, like you can. I don't know who you're talking to. You know, you're talking to me.
Go kick
I know
rock.
you're not talking to me, but if we're having a conversation and I see this, and if you're a seller, if you sold anything and you're selling something to a person, they got that glow, that look in their eye of like, I have to have. Oh my, like haggle, a haggle or ask about whatever it is, that doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me, you know, because I can tell that you are like there's this thing, you know, and that's how I get when I want
Oh,
something, when I want an animal. Like my eyes are like
yeah,
dinner
yeah.
plates.
I actually have an animal that a spot nose leopard girl, possible het for pied, that I was eyeing up on Chris from BNS Reptilia's table at the One Oak show. And like he was like, "Yeah, I knew you were gonna buy that if it was available." So
It's the thing.
I traded some rats and I paid some money and I got her.
That's the thing, and you couldn't stop thinking about it. You kept looking at her
Yeah, he's
picture,
like,
and
"Is that thing still
you know,
available?" He's like, "Yeah, I
yeah,
thought you
you
I
keep
effing
checking,
that animal." I'm
and
like, "Yeah,
that's that thing that for me never bothers me. It never bothers me. You can come. I've had people come walk past my table like 8 times and stare at the same animal, and I'm like, "Are you gonna take it now?" Every time you keep coming back, "Are you gonna take it now? Do you want it now?" And then I'll start telling them, I'm like, "What is it that why do you keep coming back?" "Oh, I really like this animal." I'm like, "Okay, well, why don't you get it?" "Oh, it's a little too much." I'm like, "Well, okay. Is it the price? Is it husbandry? Are you living with your parents? Like, what is it that
right, right."
you know?" And I had a situation recently. Someone bought a snake from me, took it home. Their parents went fucking ballistic. Now they were an adult. I'm not going to sell little kids on it. This was an adult who happened to live with their parents. Thought it was going to be okay. They lost their shit. I took the snake back. I don't normally do that, but this was someone. This was her first snake. She never had a snake before. She had it for a day. she. It's a
Yeah, I
different
mean, at that point,
situation.
it's like, okay, yeah, I'll
That's a
take it
different
back.
situation. Now I could have been very negative and be like, "Nope,
The sale's a
sales
sale.
final. I don't, don't give me that's your problem." Um, Her problem can ultimately become my problem because she could eventually go out and say, "This guy's terrible. Hey, there's got to be some reason why he doesn't want to take this animal back," or, and I think about that stuff. And it's usually like an afterthought because the first thing in my head is like, yeah, I got to get the snake out of the situation. I need to
Right,
help this
right.
person. They wanted, now they could have had a total bad experience and never want to get back. But this is a person that I know for a fact, once they're out of that situation,
They're gonna
they're
get
gonna
back.
go get another snake. They'll get another snake. It doesn't have to be from me, but they may have had a negative experience on that end. She didn't have a negative experience with me. At least I hope not. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be this, forgiving, in the future with certain things, but we as breeders also have to kind of like bend a little bit sometimes. But on the other end, as a buyer, you know, you have you also have to kind of understand what the breeder's going through. Like it takes a lot for us to raise and breed these animals. Like I bought animals that were babies. I raised them up for 3 years, feed, water, electricity, cleaning, all that stuff. Then I
Yeah,
produced eggs, and those eggs went in the incubator for 2 months. And then I had to get these babies feeding, and then all of that. And then I get to a show, and I have it marked for $200, and someone's like, "I'll give you $80 for that." And it's like, you know what? Let me come around the table, and you can just kick me in the nuts because that's sometimes how it feels because it's an insult. It could be a real bad insult. So as a buyer, you should also be, a little empathetic to that. The fact that, yes, this person has 50, 60, 100 animals on their table, but how long did it take them to get there? Are they doing it alone? I do this by myself. You know,
yeah, it's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work. I'm not saying you can't ask for a couple bucks off. There's nothing wrong with that. But, it's all about approach and how you want to be seen. Because if you eventually want to be on the other side of that table, understand what it's like, for that breeder, too, because
Oh
you're going
yeah,
to be there and someone's going to walk up to you and they're going to do the same thing. And you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, now I know that. I get it. Now I know what you mean." Because it took me 5 years to get to this point. And now this person wants to, you know, but I get it. We all want a deal. Everybody wants a deal.
oh, certainly. And if it's an animal I want to move, if I need the rack space, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that everybody has been dealing with going into the new year of breeding. It's like get these things out.
Mm-hmm.
Not I don't want to say fire sale, but it's getting kind of close. Where if you want a champagne pastel male that I hatched out, go on my morph market, message me on Instagram, whatever. Make me a deal. Um, I'm not going to say it's just going to be free shipping or just shipping, but get him out of my rack. I have
Right.
I have dad. I don't need
I
him.
get like with these big animals, I'd love them to go for a package deal, mostly because they have the same genes.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
totally. Get somebody started
these
on a
guys,
project.
and the ones that I have they're either double het or triple het, and they may possibly be triple and possibly quad because there's a 50% in there too. So it depends on what it is, and I think buying the group you'll find out who has what.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and
I take a gamble on that. you know, especially if I like had a visual male and you got a,
Mhm.
you know, pack like 3 females that may have, you know, those hats. Yeah, even if it's a pos, right? Because I'm gonna raise
Yeah,
them up, and now that possible turns into 100% because I have the visual male.
right.
Um,
And
so
even still, you could still even do that with your normal looking triple, whatever het, because you could still the hets are still possibly in there. And you're gonna get it. So even if you have a visual, you'll get visuals on the stuff that you know are 100%, but you have that 50% still floating in there. So whether or not that male's a visual or not, you still have the like iffy part of hitting that 50. So having a visual
then if you
helps you
hit it,
get more. 100% helps you get that. Absolutely. So these that I have that are either possible triple or possible quads, if you hit that, and the gene that's floating around in there too, that's a possible, is genetic stripe. Genetic stripe popped up in my collection out of nowhere, and
nice.
these animals they're all 50% possible het genetic stripe because my orange ghost line has genetic stripe in it. So, and I don't know where that came from. And this is an orange ghost male I got like 13 years ago, and it just popped up. And it's the only orange ghost that I work. It's the only hypo. It's all of mine come from his line,
And
and it
it
popped
just
up in
happened to
there.
be floating around. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
seeing that. Like with that spot nose leopard I got, there was no pied anywhere in any pairing. The I think the dam was produced by Chris and the sire was bought, but no pied anywhere in there. And this thing is, when I say it's got, you know, pied markers, I mean
Yeah,
it's got pied markers.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I mean
And
that.
then
Whew.
yeah, you won't. I mean, obviously, you'll know for sure once you breed them, but
Yeah, but you know, it's nice to have that floating around. I'll probably throw an
it is.
ultramel in there.
But I had this genetic stripe floating in him for years. I didn't know. I didn't know until I bred back a daughter of his, because I worked with I have blonde pastel, which is a really nice line of pastel, and I kept one female back, and she was het orange ghost. I raised her up, put them together, and then all of a sudden I'm getting genetic stripes in there. Now, is this genetic stripe a new line of genetic stripe? I don't know. I haven't used an already existing line of genetic stripe to test yet. I plan to. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. But if it is a different line of genetic stripe, then whoever gets these animals is going to be working with the possibility of working with a new line of genetic stripe. Again, I'm not saying that, but it popped up in my collection. I didn't add it; it popped up. So breeding that, I have to get another one. So I'm going to get a male. I'll probably get a male just to throw with a female to see if it is compatible. I
Right.
just don't
And
know.
G stripe is relatively inexpensive, same as most hypo stuff right now. So I mean, if you want to get into a recessive project, that's
And it's popular again. It's gotten really popular
because
recently.
they're putting it with clown,
Mhm.
desert ghost clown, or enhancer clown, which I think I should be getting a male that's gonna hopefully be clown 100% het enhancer possible het G stripe from Antoine. So I'm looking forward to having it like a super banger recessive packed male that I can work with.
And you could do anything with that. You could do anything with that. The recessive sitting in there, you could do anything. And I started thinking about what I wanted to add, and I looked at what I had, and I was like, wow, what do I have a lot of? What do I really like? And I had to go back down to basics because I just want to work with what I like. You know what I mean? I really like.
Yeah, that's a nice
I
compliment.
appreciate it. Thank you, Tucker. I really appreciate that. And I looked around and I was like, aside from vanilla, which I have a lot of pied. I had a lot of het pied females that I was just holding back. So I decided to push more into pied and go a little more pied heavy. So I did more research into what I like in pied, not what's popular in pied, not what's expensive in pied, and what could work in pied, and what hasn't been done in pied, or what maybe like all of those things. I started really thinking, and so I bottomed out, and I was like, you know what? I need to look, and I kept going, And it turns out I was really digging confusion, acid static.
Yep, that's something I want to add. So
And I got really lucky. And I
I'm at the
found
that's on my short list of genes that I
it's
want to add.
it's I can spot one a mile away. There's not a lot of genes that are able to do that. As subtle as it is, it's not very subtle to me. I've looked at so many of them. I can spot them. I love the gene. I think it's absolutely incredible. And the male that I got from Mac Knight Stables, which I think they're now, they changed the name. I can't remember the new name of the company. But anybody wants to know, hit me up. I'll get you that. But he had a confusion het pied male available. I'd never seen a confusion pied at that point. So I was like, I'm just going to take the jump. I jumped in. He wasn't cheap, and I don't care. That's okay. You know, that was the point of making the investment. So I said, let me look at something new, a newer gene that I really like, that I don't see. A lot of people are working with it, yeah, but you know, what are we really doing? Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Chimera.
That's the one.
Everybody's saying Chimera.
That's it. That's it. Absolutely. They got good stuff, and this male is incredible for a lot of different reasons. Number one, he's het pied. Number two, he looks like he's a confusion pastel without the pastel. I can't explain that. He's really light, and I think that's what pied is doing to him, because there are no pied markers. He doesn't have any pied markers. It's hard to have pied markers with that type of patterning. And he also eats. A lot of people are like, my acids, my confusions, they don't want to eat. They're tough feeders. This guy never refuses a meal. He has never refused a meal from day one. He wasn't a super strong breeder in the beginning, but I got him. He started breeding now. He's been big for a bit. He's at least seven something grams. He's big. He's a big guy now. But he started to kind of pick up and breed. And I want to see what else we can do with that. I want to see what else like pied and confusion will do, because after I bought him, I saw one. I saw a confusion pied, and it adds a lot of pattern. It adds a good amount of pattern. It doesn't produce low white. It doesn't produce high white. It's literally like a very close to like a 60-40, 50-50. And nice. The blacks are black. Because if you know how confusions are and how confusions mix with things, the blacks are very deep black, and it is no exception here in this pied. So if you have a chance, I found it on Instagram. There's somebody that has pictures of confusion pied. They're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. And so I want to mix that with a bunch of other things and see, what does a confusion special pied look like? What's a confusion orange dream pied? Confusion yellow belly? Like all these different things. How does that look like? And what does that look like in pied? And that for me is why I like pied, because messing with that pattern, bringing more pattern, messing with that pattern and color. Can we cover the whole snake in that crazy pattern with no white? Right. Can I take just pattern and put it dead center in the middle of that body? Can you do it just on the head, just on the like all these different things? It's fun. That's why I like special, because it's really odd, because you never know where the pattern's going to lie.
Like I said earlier, I like that as a Bell complex gene. I like special. I want to get special. YT Vance is asking, is there a difference between confusion and acid? Is it who produced it, or are they actually different things?
I think it's going to depend on who you talk to. Personally, I don't think there's a difference. Static acid and confusion are the same thing in my eyes. They are supposedly compatible. I don't know enough about the individual ones. I just worked with confusion, but I did a lot of research before I bought it, and that's why I went the confusion route, because that's the one that was het pied, and it was really nice. And it was really nice, and I've seen acids, I've seen statics, and to me, I don't really see a difference. I don't see a difference. The difference is price, I think.
What's it? Trick, Blitz, and Hurricane. I think Hurricane's the original one in that.
And I don't work with any of them, so I don't have much of an opinion on those. I can only say that you know, when it comes to what I work with as far as the confusion, you know, I generally went with the confusion route because I did see more confusions available, and then it just so happened to be there was a confusion het pied available.
Yeah, I
It's like
saw
vanilla. I like vanilla, you know, but I also like disco. I think disco's really cool too.
right, and that's still in that fire vanilla complex.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
so I did see, and this is what really wanted me to get into acid. Dale was Constricted Reptiles. I believe he produced an acid ultramel, and that thing looks amazing.
Hmm.
And I like ultramel. It's going to be my pet project
And
going
the
forward. So, like,
confusion orange ghost.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
So just to get that into like these orange, purple,
Mhm.
recesses I'm working with, just I think that's going to
Right
be
after that, I bought this guy. I was like, okay, if I'm going pied, I'm gonna go get some more pied stuff. So I invested in a couple more het pied females, and I could buy visual pieds. I could do this, and that's fine. I like hets. I like working with hets. I know that's, you know, a lot
it,
of
it,
people.
it's it's
Of
it's
course, I would
cool.
rather a visual. Yeah, of course,
Right.
but
But if
I
you have a
wanted to.
visual male,
If you have a visual male, it's a little different.
then
But I
then
also
it's
wanted
like you
to
can play the
work
head
with.
game.
I know, and
Visual
then I wanted
male,
to work with
three
the
het
confusion
female, boom.
itself. Right. I mean, you get 66%, but if you're dealing with a recessive in a 66% form, pied is probably your better bet because you can kind of tell a het pied from a
Right, right. You're
non-het
going to see
pied
a ringer
ish,
or tracks.
you know, and you have a better confidence about selling this. It's still possible, but I feel like I think this is going to prove out, even though it's a possible, you know.
Yeah.
And Tucker is definitely going to be getting one of these confusions. I know that.
And he's probably getting a puzzle from Dylan.
So the
If he
the
doesn't
other thing
already
about
have one.
confusion is what confusion does with other genes too, other incomplete dominant genes and so on. You know, just confusion with leopard. You know, they get that thick black stripe right down the belly, like, you know, it's incredible. So when you're working these projects, you don't necessarily have to. You don't have to go the route everybody else. If I did that, then I would have 90% clowns. And I'm not shitting on clown. Believe me, I'm not shitting on clown. I have a clown, you know, and I like the I have a vanilla clown, so I'm working on super vanilla clowns, and I'm gonna have a bunch of vanilla het clown stuff,
Nice,
you know,
nice.
and there's a point to that because that's the clown route I want to go. I don't want to get clown everything. I just want to work
That project.
vanilla. Yeah, like I'm working. If she goes, I think she's gonna go, but I put him to a super vanilla orange dream specter pastel female who's incredible. So out of that, I'm gonna, you know, if I can get all of those genes with the possibility of super vanilla as well, and there will be het clown,
Nice, nice.
you know. So and I put him to a vanilla cream orange dream female who she's also 50% had hypo or orange ghost, and I think she's going to prove because she's so different than anything else I produced. She's super light. So this is not that I don't work clown. This is just my first year working clown.
And
Because last year,
right, but you have
he was
like
a
a
bum.
targeted clown project that works with
Right.
stuff. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna buy like 10 clown stuff,
Right.
and
Because he did go.
randomly
I
work
have
it in.
a vanilla.
You have a targeted focus
Right.
of this project.
Because I like vanilla clowns. I like super vanilla clowns. And I do have a pastel vanilla het clown female that he went with, and I think she's gravid. So the possibility of making super vanilla clowns is possible because,
Nice.
you know, this year versus, you know, next year and so on.
So
But that's almost like my pet project. That's just for me because I want to just make them, you know.
yeah.
Everything else is also that, but also to produce stuff for other people. I like making ingredients for other people to take for their collections and do different things with too.
Definitely. So we are approaching the 6 o'clock hour. My smoked meat will be done.
Oh,
soon.
I didn't even
And
notice
we
that.
have been
Wow.
like this probably could go on the rest of the night. But we are hitting that. I gotta pump.
I get
the
it.
brakes. And you know what? Since we were having such a good conversation, you'll have to come on again and we can, continue this
Cool. Absolutely.
on a future date, man. It's been awesome. Great. Almost 2 hours at this point. We've had, anywhere between 15 and 25 people tuning in. that's been awesome. It's definitely been a good show on my end as far as viewership goes.
Cool.
So I appreciate all of you that have tuned in. I am very hungry right now, and I can smell that
I get it.
them ribs wafting in. But again, thank you everybody that's tuned in.
Yeah,
thank you
much
again, Angel, for
appreciated.
coming on and chopping it up for
Absolutely.
2 hours. So with that, we're gonna wrap this up. So Angel, any final words for the people that are watching?
If anybody has any questions about anything I showed you, shoot me a message. If you have any questions about anything you want to, if you have any purchasing questions, obviously, shoot me a message on Instagram. It's the best place to catch up to me. And I try to post a lot, but the majority of what I work with is all on Instagram. So you can see everything I work with. Some things are on Morph Market, whatever you don't see, just shoot me a message. And I'm always happy to answer questions anytime. And always, as always, support USARK. USARK,
Yeah,
please
definitely.
support USARK.
Anything you take away, go spend your $35, get your T-shirt,
whatever it is.
Yeah, or if you
USARK.
want to be silver, spend a little bit more money, but anything helps. We really need to support USARK to fight for our rights as reptile keepers. But all right, that's it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you again, Angel, for coming on the panel. It's been a great
Absolutely.
2 hours, and I will see you. Well, I will see you next week. I will be live, but it's a pre-record. So I'll be in the chat. You can watch me talk to John Feely for a bit of time while y'all are at Tinley or Gettysburg or Scranton, wherever you're at next weekend. So it's hopefully you tune in. I'm going to try to be in the comments. I think I'm in between rounds at Nationals where I can do that. So we'll see you next week. And here we go. Take care, guys.